President Trump wanted him back here. He would be back in a New York minute, okay? But he's not coming back, and he shouldn't be back. He's apparently a member of MS-13, and he should stay right there at that Supermax, whatever prison you want to call it, in El Salvador with the rest of those animals. Let him stay there. And case in point, 11 more violent, illegal migrants, including 7 gangbangers, deported from the U.S. to El Salvador over the weekend. President Trump is doing the right thing. President Trump is putting America first. And notice we're not. So, for example, in Maryland, that monster accused in the death of that woman there, he's going on trial today. And he'll be convicted, but nothing will bring back that mother of 5. Nothing will bring back the young lady in Georgia. It's a horrible situation. And Trump is doing the right thing. But I want to begin this hour with what happened in Dallas, Texas. I don't understand what's happening here. The young man that's charged with the murder of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at that track meet on April 2nd, his bail has been reduced from $1 million to $250,000. So he was in court this morning for a bail reduction hearing, and indeed, the judge reduced his bail and placed him on house arrest. Now, defense lawyers are claiming that once the truth emerges, that this young man will be vindicated. I don't see how. I don't see any scenario where he can be vindicated, and it's absolutely disgusting that his bail has been reduced from $1 million down to $250,000. His family has raised money on a GoFundMe page. So in all likely, he will be released today on bail. Now, he's on house arrest, so he has to stay in the house. But for him to be released, it is a crying shame. I want to begin with the presidents of America and El Salvador at the White House, and they are doing the right thing. Neither man is buckling. You know, you were sent to this prison. You're a gangbanger. So be it. President Trump is doing the right thing. This is how the Attorney General Pam Bondi and Stephen Miller responded after they were asked about this. And then we're going to begin with your telephone calls.
Return the man who your administration says was mistakenly deported. The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, 2 courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him?
And you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Can you just also respond to that question? Because, you know, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant. Because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation.
So Let's be very clear here, and we're about to begin with your calls. We all know, let's not play this game. We all know that if President Trump wanted him back here, he would make a phone call to the president of El Salvador and he would be released immediately. But President Trump is doing the right thing. The president of El Salvador is doing the right thing. Keep that gangbanger where he belongs. You heard the Attorney General state herself that 2 courts found, not 1 but 2, that he was a member of MS-13 and in the country illegally. What else is there to debate? Nothing. Let's get to Governor Shapiro. You imagine this scenario. Yes, you have protection everywhere, but you're asleep in your home. You're asleep in your home. First night of Passover, and there's a bang on the door. Governor, we've got to get out. We've got to get you out. There's a fire, Governor. Wake up your family. Imagine that situation, how you would feel. And this is what Governor Shapiro had to say.
We do know that this attack was targeted. We don't know the person's specific motive yet, but we do know a few truths. First, this type of violence is not okay. This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society. And I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or the other, directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay, and it has to stop. We have to be better than this, and we have a responsibility to all be better.
And the state police in Pennsylvania have made an arrest. We'll have more on that. Let's begin with your telephone calls. Let's go to line 1. Gail, Cortland Manor, New York. What's on your mind, Gail?
Hey, how are you?
Good. Go right ahead, please.
Okay. The fire at this governor's house. When I heard the story, I don't know much about him, just that he was in the running with Kamala. The thing is, the fire equals, to me, liberal Democrats or socialists. They're the only people who are setting things on fire lately. So, he really has to address that crowd and not lump us all together, because most likely it was a liberal Democrat or a socialist.
It wasn't. It wasn't. I don't have the information in front of me. Apparently, first of all, Gail, I don't know why the individual's politics matter, but it was not somebody it was apparently someone that had gripes with the Democratic Party. But that doesn't matter. At what point do we stop looking at this? Look at what happened to this man and his family. When do we look at the human aspect of not Republican or Democrat, but that this is completely unacceptable?
Right. It is unacceptable.
But you didn't say that. You said it's the other side.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see what the case is.
But Gail, why is that important?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I understand.
Okay.
And I'm taking it in, but we'll see.
Okay, fair enough, Gail. Thank you very much for the call here. Let's see. Let's go to Gail in Pennsylvania, line 3. Gail, what's on your mind?
Hello, Dominic. It's amazing that our courts have, as Stephen Miller was alluding to, the arrogance to demand that one of their own criminals, he's actually a citizen who came here illegally. He's from El Salvador, San Salvador. This is crazy, to have that kind of arrogance.
It is. But Gail, I do have to be honest. Let's not play the game. If President Trump wanted this guy back, he'd be back this afternoon. But the president is doing the right thing. He's an MS-13 gang member. Bye-bye. You don't belong in the country. Gail, you have the final word before I move on.
I think the president of El Salvador actually has the last word, because the man is a citizen there.
Yes, he does. But Gail, come on now. Backdoor negotiations. You don't think if President Trump wanted this guy back, he'd be back this afternoon?
He would, yes. But if President Trump did that, that would be highly offensive.
You're correct. You're correct.
Yes.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. You're correct, Gail. You're correct. It would be highly offensive. Gail,
And
go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, go ahead, please.
This is alluding to the conversation that the prior Gail had. I did read that this man had problems, as you said, with Democrats, but he is in the Socialist Party, just to clarify.
Okay, fair enough. And I appreciate that. But what I don't understand, this man's home was firebombed. And we're saying, no, don't blame us. Look at the other party. It's them. It's what's wrong with our politics. We're so polarized where we hate each other, and this is the point that I try and make on this network. We all think that President Trump walks on water, and he does. But half the country thinks he's the devil. And that's also the reality of what's going on. So thank you, Gail, for the wonderful call. It is time for a break. We are taking your telephone calls, 800-848-9222. And you folks may have just heard in that clip that we played at the top of the program where President Trump singled out CNN. Well, Dana Bash on air responded to what the president said, President Trump calling out CNN when he said, I think they hate our country, actually. That's a direct quote from the president. Dana Bash on air just said, she said, I just want to say for the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country, CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying. Dominic Carter here with you, and back to the telephones we go. Line 3, David in Passaic, New Jersey. What's on your mind, David?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what you said about Texas, where the athletes were a heated exchange. And
yes, sir.
One athlete pulls out a knife. They don't fight anymore. You fought in high school.
Of course.
You fought with your fists.
That's right. You win some, you lose some.
Happened.
You win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day.
But who carries a knife in a backpack? What are you carrying a knife when you go to a track meet?
You shouldn't be carrying a backpack, and you shouldn't, when you sit in another school section, you're asking for trouble. And that's exactly what happened. So apparently, based on defense counsel, the kid that's accused in this crime of murder has held down jobs, has never been arrested before. So something psychologically happened. Even if the other kid used the N-word, it's still no justification to pull out a knife and stab somebody in the chest.
The mentality is gangbangers. These kids are carrying weapons now, guns, and that's what they visualize on TV and rapping and all that stuff. They don't.
And you're so correct, David. But what they don't understand is that these rappers, they're going through the motion. These rappers generally don't live that lifestyle. These rappers don't even live in your community. They live in the best communities money can buy, and they talk that talk to sell records. And unfortunately, David, young people, they believe it, they go for it, and it's unfortunate. Thank you very much for the telephone call. Let's go to Anthony, line 4, Westchester. Anthony, what's on your... Oops, I just cut Anthony off by mistake. I apologize. So please call back. I didn't mean to do so here. Let's go to Kathy, Smithtown, New York, line 1. Kathy, what's on your mind?
Hello, Dominic. I feel like the Biden administration should be held accountable for allowing those people in here that allowed that young mother to be killed the way she did. Like somebody has to be responsible.
Which mother? And you're not gonna get Biden. You're not gonna get any top officials. How would you get them? President Trump has not illustrated that that's what he wants to do.
No, I understand that, but just because they don't do it doesn't make it right.
Well, you're right about that, Kathy. You're right about that. But when you say that young mother, I believe you're talking about the one in Maryland. But we can go around the country where this has happened to young women, brutally raped and left aside like a dead deer, until authorities find them. It is horrible, but I don't see any accountability here. Biden is gone. I guess that's the accountability, that he was a one-term president, but that's not good enough for you, correct?
Correct. That is fine. All right. I get it. You're right, Dominic.
Have
a great day.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for the wonderful call here. Let's go to Joe, line 2, Trenton, New Jersey. Joe, what's on your mind?
Dominic, here we have a foiled assassination attempt against Donald Trump. This kid has ties with the Ukraine. The one they call on the golf course has ties with Ukraine. The Russia collusion had ties with Ukraine. It's time to start looking into what's going on in Ukraine.
I hear you, Joe. I got to take a break. I do apologize. President Trump has the best security in the world now.
You know, like CNN over here doesn't want to put him out because they don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out because I think they hate our country, actually.
Before I get to you, I just want to say, for the record, since we heard President Trump say in the Oval Office that CNN hates our country, CNN does not hate our country. That should go without saying. I've been here for 32 years, and I see a rhetorical device in him trying to say such a thing.
Well, there you have it, happening just a short time ago. President Trump making his comment in the Oval Office. Dana Bash of CNN responding. And all I can say is that I wish my colleagues at CNN well, but some of your reporting that's so far left. Why would anybody in there? I understand we don't want Americans in a mistake to be sent to a prison in El Salvador, but why would anybody argue to bring this guy back? I know what the Supreme Court ruled, bring him back. But if he's a gangbanger, in which has been documented that he is, MS-13, good luck with that. You're a resident of El Salvador. You're not supposed to be here to begin with in Maryland. And this president, folks, let's keep it real, as the kids would say. This president is not joking around. The border and migrants being here is very, very serious to him, and he is not playing around. And by the way, folks, Harvard University, this is bubbling. Harvard University stating just a short time ago they will not comply with the demands of the Trump administration. Federal officials have said that Harvard must enact, quote, merit-based reform in hiring and admissions, among other things. Harvard calling the demands unlawful. So you have that situation. We have Governor Shapiro's home firebombed in Pennsylvania. And the unimaginable, when you think about the Hudson River and the helicopter crash, you think about the family coming to New York for a once-in-a-lifetime vacation, and it ends up the way it did. My heart breaks for them. We have got to do better when it comes to oversight and safety. I get it. Tourism is the lifeblood of New York City, but so is responsibility. These joyrides shouldn't cost people their lives. And so I want to get back to your telephone calls. Let's see here. Let's go to line one. Ray, Putnam County. What's on your mind, Ray?
How you doing, Dominic? So with the Shapiro mansion, Governor Mansion, getting firebombed, I did not hear from not one Democrat when they were firebombing all of the Tesla dealerships.
But, Ray, what you're doing right now is wrong. It's just as wrong.
Let me finish. I don't condone this. What I'm trying to say is...
But what you're doing right now is just as wrong as what those on the left do. But go ahead.
Well, no, I was just trying to get to a point.
No, what you're trying to do is point to the left, and you're not showing any respect or any concern for the governor or his family. What about that?
No, you didn't let me finish. I respect it very much. Listen, this is his holiday. This is his wife and kids in the house. What I was trying to say is if we would have heard more...
But you didn't start out with that. You started out with an attack on the other side.
I'm in a rush because I know you like to move along.
Right, I do, Ray. You're right about that. I give you a lot of credit. I like to keep it moving. But all I'm saying, Ray, and I'm going to let you finish, I just think it's despicable. If all we're doing is say, look to the left, instead of showing some sympathy for this governor and his family, then we're just as wrong as the other side is.
Agree,
go ahead.
100%.
Okay, go ahead.
Like I said, I don't condone it. It should never happen. I just think everybody has to talk about this more so there's no pointing of fingers. That's all, not just one-sided.
Right. Okay, fair enough, Ray. Thank you for the call. There's going to be pointing of fingers no matter what. But I say to all of you, imagine your sleep and your state police detail bangs on the door. Governor, we've got to go now. You don't know if there's a sniper outside waiting for you to walk out, and you wake up your wife and kids, and you've got to abandon your home because of some nut job. And these nuts are everywhere, unfortunately. Unfortunately, folks. Let's see here. Let's go back to your calls. Let's go to line 3. Joel in West Islip, New York. What's on your mind, Joel?
Hi, Dominic. Number one, CNN is totally left, and I totally agree with Donald Trump. And number two, I want to go to Texas. The 2 young boys involved, the one that did the stabbing and the one that got stabbed.
Correct.
I think it's a terrible, terrible thing for both families to go through. But I don't think the person who did the stabbing should be locked up. I think if he has the right family and they have a collar to know where he is and where he isn't, I think that is sufficient. And if he has no
okay, so wait,
history,
Joel, let's stop for a second. Let's just stop for 1 second. So now you're the father. You just buried your son that had a 4.0, was probably going to get a football scholarship, and he lost his life over a seat and a high school stand. Would you still have that position that you do, that the suspect should be released? Now it's your son.
probably not. But we have to look at the big picture. And I think that we have to look at the big picture, and kids do stupid things. I don't think he intended to kill anybody. I don't think he brought that knife to kill anybody.
So when you stab somebody in the chest, Joe, what are the potential options?
I think it's manslaughter, and they have to look at the person's history. I don't think they should look at him as someone with the same a crime that has maybe 19 priors. You know, I think you have to give the benefit of the doubt. And I agree with you. If it was me, if it was my son, I would want to hang the person. But I have to look at it from outside looking in and try to be fair to everybody.
I hear you, Joel. Thank you for the telephone call. My position on this is simple. Life in jail. That's what this young man deserves. I don't want to hear the sob story of how good a student he was and how great his extracurricular activities. You stab somebody in the chest. Life. Period. Let's go to let's go to line 2. Anthony in Westchester. Anthony, what's on your mind?
Hi, Dominic. When I'm commuting down the West Side Highway, right before 54th Street, there's those dividers that in the center with the trees, the concrete barriers.
And I want you to explain, but you're about to tell me what I think we all know because we see it every day. It's either homeless families or migrant mothers with 5 or 6 kids standing there begging for money, and I wouldn't give them a dime. Call me cold-hearted, but anyway, Anthony, continue.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was calling. They don't even go up to the cars. They just sit there with the sign. I don't know what they're doing. They're expecting people to get out of the car to red light and give them money.
You're correct.
The kids are breathing fumes. There could be an accident. Something could fly off the car. Maybe Mayor Adams would do something about it. But these are the residual effects of Joe Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, and their globalist politics. Thank God for Donald Trump.
Agreed.
And it's a real shame. And like Donald Trump said today in that conference, what Joe Biden did with that border is a sin. And this is the residual effects. This is a hazard to these children.
I agree with you, Anthony, 1,000%. Every time I go down the West Side Highway, I see it. Sometimes when I haven't been on the subway in a good month and a half, maybe. But I do try to ride the subways. I just have zero sympathy. I don't know why every stop I have to look at some homeless person muttering to themselves. I don't know why I have to worry about, does this person have fleas on them or worse? That I don't know why we have to worry about even a more difficult situation. Is this person going to pull out a knife and stab me simply because of what they may be seeing in their own minds? Let's go to line 3, Jim in Nyack, Rockland County, New York. What's on your mind, Jim?
Hey, Dom, on that last call in regards to the governor, I mean, I feel for him. I'm a member of the fire department, the EMS division, and I just look at he had a point with the Tesla stuff going on, because those getting burned is worse than
Jim,
9/11.
I'm sorry. I have zero sympathy with what you're saying right now. I think we're sick as a society. This man's house was firebombed. His kids in the house. And all you want to talk about is what the other side did?
No.
Serious?
You're
You're
Dominic,
the one that, first of all, Jim, you're not the first caller to call up and say this in the last 24 hours. I would venture to say that most callers agree with your perspective than what mine is. But I'm going to call it the way I see it. Jim, you're the governor. It's your family in that mansion. Would you still be talking this nonsense about, oh, look at what the other side did with Teslas?
No, what I'm trying to say, I'm in agreement with you, what happened with the governor.
Okay.
What I'm attempting to say is that the other side not making an issue of the lackadaisical, oh, well, they just burned this up, they just burned that up. We're getting used to just and burning shit. That's the problem.
Right.
Across both.
Okay, that's fair enough, Jim, and you're right. You're right about that. You know, we're unfortunately society is getting used to burning stuff. And, you know, some folks have said, well, how could he get past the state police? Folks, unfortunately, it's very easy. The state police are there as a deterrent, but it's the middle of the night. You can't cover everything. And, you know, we wish the state police could have caught him before this, if this is the guy that did it. But I got your point now, Jim. I'm just concerned, and you're right. If we took the firebombing serious with Tesla vehicles and dealerships, then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. I got you now, Jim, and I thank you. I thank you so much for that call. Let's see here. Let's go. All right. So let's see. Do you guys have some aspirin in there? Seriously, some Midol. Oh, you do got some aspirin. I want some Midols mixed with that. And, you know, and all of that good stuff. I know women take Midol, but I'm going to need it after this next call. So you have those, Carlos, you have those aspirin ready for me?
I got the Advil for you.
Yes, good. Because you know when I take this call, I need the Advil because he's going to say, I wish I could say what I really want to say right now. He's going to say some off-the-wall stuff. Well, let's give him a shot. Russ in White Plains. What's on your mind? Line 4, Russ. What's on your mind?
Oh, thanks for the 15-second build-up, Dominic, but I'd rather just tell you that I watched on C-SPAN how vulnerable people need to establish a boundary when they're doing self-defense, and that white boy crossed the boundary when the African-American kid said, "Don't put your hands on me," and that white boy, surrounded by his friends, went after that African-American. And African-American youth are bullied more than the average. You know that.
Okay.
Can I just finish?
No, Russ, you can't finish. Because you just referred to this young man in a derogatory term. That's not his name. And thank you for the call, Russ. If we're going to talk about this, then refer to that young man by his name that's now in the grave, Austin Metcalf. We're not going to call him what you just did, Russ. That's not cool. Especially when his family is in tremendous pain. And the fact of the matter is, the young man, Carmelo Anthony, that just got bail, I don't want to cry me a river. I don't want to hear he was an honor student. I don't want to hear about his extracurricular life. That's what I want to hear. Life. Mommy and daddy, you should have did a better job raising him. Life for what he did. There is, if he's the one that did it, there is no justification whatsoever. Line 3, Carolyn in Manhattan. What's on your mind, Carolyn?
Hey, Dominic, I heard that the whole thing started because, they were at this track meet. And it all started because the black kid went into the white kid's tent. And the white kid said, "You don't belong here."
Yes.
He didn't belong in the world. He meant, this is our tent, and you have to leave.
Right.
That's how it all started.
Right.
But the thing about what most people do not understand, kids do not go around carrying knives. You had to want to kill that kid to go into that tent to bring that knife. And I still say he should be put, I don't know whether he's insane. I don't know what he thinks. But this is a horrible thing. If most people that are on your audience don't see that, I mean, what sensitivity do these people have? These people's son, his brother, who's his twin, or the closest thing, he's dead. And all I can think about is this boy. It's ridiculous.
I agree with you, Carolyn, but you tried telling that to someone on the left. To someone on the left, they want to put this African-American child on posters like he's a hero. And the fact of the matter, thank you for the call, Carolyn. The fact of the matter is, I'm sorry that this happened, but he's not a hero. He's not someone to look up to, just like George Floyd. And by the way, that author just did documentary. She just won a defamation case against her. I'll be dealing with that tonight or tomorrow. But, folks, I've got to take a break. We see your calls coming in. And up next, it's Keeping the Live-In Alive with Debbie Nigro, sponsored by Native Path Collagen.
And now, it's time for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Final Thoughts.
And it is time for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Final Thoughts. And I'm looking at my Twitter and my X, and Debbie Lebedo, Staten Island. Debbie says that kid stabbed that kid talking about Texas, to cause harm, murder. He needs to be made an example to others who think they may get away with it. Let the law do its proper job. Life in prison. Amen, Debbie. Amen. Valeria in Florida says she's listening, that she has 100% sympathy for the Pennsylvania governor. Valeria, I was about to say, haven't gotten to know you a little bit. I know you have some sympathy for the governor of Pennsylvania, in which she goes on to say the governor must continue to condemn terrorists. Social media investigation shows Cody, the suspect, was an evil socialist who perpetrated voter fraud. I've been checking X because MS Media is hiding this. Okay, so mainstream media is hiding this. And by the way, Valeria, I saw all of your tweets, and to all of you that sent me notes overnight, and I forgot her name, but the woman that reminded me of the supermarket in Rockland County, New York, that's open 24 hours. So when I leave at 2 a.m. and I'm hungry and haven't had dinner, and, you know, folks, I mentioned, I'm going right back to your calls. I mentioned early this morning and last night that just my luck, I go to turn on the stove. I was about to make something. The stove doesn't come on. And I'm like, what's happening here? And so then the microwave above it comes on, but nothing with the stove. And so I'm like, oh, this is great. So now I got to pull the stove out, check the circuit breakers. Now I got to hire an electrician to come in and look at this. And so many of you sent me nice notes of what to do and 20 circuit break, all of this stuff. I don't know that stuff, folks. All I know is talk radio and journalism and politics. And so, Valeria, thank you for the wonderful list. But I want to know, when do I have time? My wife will be back soon from Rhode Island, but when do I have time to get all of these ingredients of what you recommended? I mean, I've never done this in my life. I did order with Sandra in New Jersey. She told me this special stevia. So I did order that today, right? 48 hours or 3 days, 72 hours after she said it. Anyway, let's go back to your telephone calls. Dimitri, line 4, Colorado. What's on your mind, Dimitri?
Hi, Dominic. In reference to what you said about the governor, yes, we should have compassion for him. But in reference to what you said about the nut job allowed to run free, it was his policies that allowed that. Thank you very much.
Wait, Dimitri, did you hear what you just said? Yes, we should have sympathy, but, and then you went into the regular spin of what each party's doing to each other. Do you understand that?
No, I was saying his policies allowed those people.
What policies? What policies of Shapiro's?
Of letting
you don't even know. You don't even know. You're just throwing it out there because he's a Democrat, and that's that. What specific policies of Shapiro's led to this firebombing? You don't know. Right? But I mean, and I'm not saying this to embarrass you. All I'm saying is at some point, folks, on each side, we've got to stop this. You can't just keep going, oh, yeah, I feel bad, but, and then go into your litany. Thank you for the call, Dimitri. Go into your litany of attack lines that you want to use against the other side. Line 3, John, Long Island. What's on your mind, John?
Hey, Dominic. I'm surprised and shocked, kind of, in the wake of the absolute tragedy of the helicopter crash and losing 6 people in that crash, that nobody can call up and say how thank God that man, Governor Shapiro, and his family were not burned alive in that fire. I mean, we have tragedy after tragedy going on here, and now
this is true.
People are just calling up and saying, "Oh, politics, this and that." Those kids could have been burned alive. Thank God. And of course, right in the midst of his, high holy days that he just celebrated,
yes,
he could have been burned alive. And I believe that, maybe God saved his family at this time.
And it's a wonderful thing that a higher being did. John, thank you so much for the call. I apologize, folks, for the calls that we can't get to. All it takes is $11 a month. Donate $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org.